Eddie Hearn says he was willing to sign Terence Crawford to the zone, but Terence Crawford was pricing himself out and asking for a ridiculous number and ridiculous amount of money. I'm going to break this down for y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. So we got some interesting news as British promoter, Eddie Hearn, basically the biggest man over at the zone, says that Terence Crawford was pricing himself out, and Bob Arum and Al Heyman, the PBC, was absolutely right about Terence Crawford not wanting to sign with them. And now Eddie Hearn stating that he was going to sign Terence Crawford, but he was just asking for an unrealistic number. Here's my take on the whole situation. We know Terence Crawford has been with Top Rank for a very long time. We know that Terence Crawford was not getting the big fights. Even though Bob said that he was going to make these fights a while back, Terence Crawford was still not getting the big fights. And Bob Arum was trashing Terence Crawford's name as a promoter, saying that Terence Crawford, he lost so much money on Terence Crawford that he could build a mansion from Beverly Hills from scratch. And you just don't say that to any fighter that's you trying to promote and trying to get his brand out. And I do believe Bob Arum tarnished Terence Crawford brand throughout the years that Terence Crawford was with Top Rank. And Terence Crawford, we know he's not a mega star. We know he's not a big drawing board. We know he doesn't do numbers like Errol Spence or any other of these top fighters in the welterweight division. But Terence Crawford does have a name. He does have boxing ability. He's getting by on his skill, and the diehard boxing fans appreciate him. But Bob Arum, we heard from his mouth that Terence Crawford, he stated that Terence Crawford doesn't do enough to promote himself and get his name out of there. And I have to agree with Bob Arum on this because Terence Crawford, when it came to the Sean Porter, Terence Crawford, he didn't try to make it exciting. He was very bland. He was just very boring. And I can see why Terence Crawford's star power isn't growing. You got to talk trash. And this one that really stuck out to me. If you're waiting for Errol Spence Jr. to call you out, why don't you call out Errol Spence Jr.? Why don't you trash his name? Why you don't do this? Why? So you can build up the fight. This is supposed to be a fighter all about. If you know you want to get this big fight with somebody, you need to try to trash Errol Spence Jr. name, and then y'all can get the smoke going on, and then the people's gonna be like, hey man, I like this Terence Crawford guy. This guy is really pressing Errol Spence. And this is how you grow your brand and grow your star power. And Terence Crawford is, he's not doing anything to try to promote himself. By him not promoting himself, and also Bob Arum disgrading and downgraded his name, it's just made Terence Crawford star power go down even more. And that's why Terence Crawford had to wind up leaving Top Rank. And he's also suing Bob Arum for $10 million. If all y'all people don't know that Terence Crawford is suing Bob Arum. But we heard the same scenario with PBC. Al Heyman tried to make a deal for Terence Crawford to make the fight between him and Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford was asking for a ridiculous number, and PBC's like, you know what? Screw you, dude. We're not giving you this. So now Eddie Hearn is stating that Terence Crawford is asking for a ridiculous amount of money, and it's unrealistic. And he want majority of the person split. And it's getting out of hand for Terence Crawford. I mean, Terence Crawford, you got to take money that you know that you're going to make, that you're guaranteed, not unrealistic numbers, because Eddie Hearn's looking like, look, Terence Crawford, you're not a big star, but we're willing to pay you a couple $1 million. You're not a mega star. And I have to agree with Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, and Al Heyman. There's just not enough star power generated for Terence Crawford. And I believe that Terence Crawford's name was tarnished by Bob Arum, because Bob Arum didn't give a damn about Terence Crawford's career. He wanted Terence Crawford out of Top Rank maybe a while back when Terence Crawford was willing to stay, and Bob Arum just didn't give a damn about Terence Crawford anymore. But with that being said, I just don't see why Terence Crawford would ask for a number. A lot of people stating that Terence Crawford is stalling. He really doesn't want this fight, asking for ridiculous amounts of money. A lot of people, there was a big argument a while back about the percentages and the split. Errol Spence says 60-40 my way, and Terence Crawford says no. And we heard Terence Crawford on a radio show saying that even if Errol Spence offered you 50-50, he says, I don't know. And Terence Crawford was on, I forgot what fight he was, not commentating, but, well, you can say commentating. But he was on a fight card, and they asked Terence Crawford, what do you think about the Errol Spence Jr. fight next? And Terence Crawford says, I'm done with that fight. It's behind me. So we don't know why Terence Crawford be saying all these crazy things. And now he's coming up with ridiculous numbers. Terence Crawford needs to stop being stupid and think about what you're doing to yourself and your career and your money. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get paid millions of dollars, but don't ask for nothing like, okay, I'll sign with you for $40 million. Like, what? What have you done to earn $40 million? Okay, we could say undisputed. But you wasn't a star back in those days, even though you had undisputed. Everybody, the diehard box fan, know who you were. You wasn't a star. So what have you done? I'm just throwing $40 million as a random number. They didn't say any of the numbers or anything like that yet, but they just told that Terence Crawford asked for a ridiculous amount of money, that Unrealistic from Eddie Hearn. And so if you're asking for $40 million, what have you done to deserve $40 million? So the question begs to differ is, do Terence Crawford really want to fight the best opposition? I think he does, but don't try to force yourself out of the fight by pricing yourself out and not want to sign with a network. So Terence Crawford is a network free agent. And when Eddie Hearn said this, now I have to believe all three of these guys, because at the end of the day, Terence Crawford needs to try to do something to get his name out there. Terence Crawford is probably going to be sitting on the shelf for a very long time. That's if Keith Thurman doesn't take another tune-up, or Keith Thurman's going to jump straight to Terence Crawford. But if Keith Thurman does not accept the fight with Terence Crawford could be potentially sitting on the shelf all the way up to maybe the spring or the summertime. Who knows what Terence Crawford's going to do and who his next opponent might be. But with that being said, guys, Eddie Hearn says that Terence Crawford is pricing himself out, asking for a ridiculous amount of money. And he was willing to sign Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford, they just gave up because of the money he was asking for and the purse and stuff and all that other good stuff. With that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.